Well, good evening, everybody. Welcome to the stream. I'm Martin. I'm going to give you a quick rundown on where we're up to with the Zarktor's realm development. Just going to run the main development menu. You can see now that this has the RPG Builder from Blink. So this is configured with RPG Builder. I've got the characters, the 12 characters that have been built up in the previous sessions are now configured in here as characters that you can choose from, and they're rendering quite nicely. So I've basically got sort of male and female variations of most of these. I've got the original Blink RPG Builder one in there for testing purposes, and all 12 of these. So I'm just going to go take this one because he goes into the Exeter scene. The rest of them go into the Blink RPG Builder test scene. So testing 1, 2, 3. No, sorry, no, okay. Testing Exeter. Let's give him some stats. So this is basically just the template for RPG Builder that I'm using. But what this is going to do is it's going to spawn this character and it's going to take it into the Exeter scene. And the Exeter scene now has, I've got a mini map that I've taken as a snapshot of the overlay of the terrain. And that's going to load that Exeter scene with this character in it. And I've now got a third-person controller in there, so you can actually control the character and move around, as opposed to the Gaia first-person controller that I was using last week. I've also brought in a merchant and popped him into the scene to, I guess, have someone to start interacting with. And one of the things I'm going to be doing tonight while that scene loads is to import a fresh character and to basically do all the work on them to bring them into the game. So tonight will be a little bit of sort of end-to-end process for me. So I'm using this Blacksmith character that I purchased yesterday from Dary Palasky. I really like these kits that Dary has put together. So, in particular, with this, it's on special because it's a new asset. So it's like this launch discount. In particular, with this one, the character has what I like about it are the blend. So it's got all these blend shapes, and these blend shapes are obviously important if you need to give the character a speaking part because you need to animate the face and the mouth. So. Now, I do know with this one that it doesn't support universal render pipeline, as far as I know. Yeah, there you go. So it's a built-in render pipeline character, like the other ones that Dary has put together. That's okay, though, because I am going to apply the shaders, the URP shaders from Quang Fan, who has done all the other characters that I've got in the game at the moment. So I'll be going through this Blacksmith from start to finish, basically bringing them in. There'll be a pink asset, and then go through and apply the URP shaders to it. I'm then going to rig it up with SALSA Lipsync and put a couple of demo voices over it, and I'm then going to pop them in the scene at the Blacksmith. So I'm going to do all that tonight, hopefully, unless something goes wrong. But yeah, I'll take you through that. But yeah, check out this guy's assets, Dary Palasky, on the asset store. He's got quite a few there. I do have a couple of these packs. I've got the medieval pack. Some of them these two are rigged with the blend shapes for the face. I brought in the merchant this week, but yeah, these ones aren't rigged for the face yet. So I think I've got to do a bit of work with them to fix that up. But yeah, these packs are really, really good. So check that out. All right, so this is basically where I'm at. I've taken the horse out because I'm going to reinstall Melba's horse riding from scratch and just do a fresh update of it. I've also brought in Blink's RPG Obsidian UI pack, which basically takes the Blink RPG user interface and overlays these extra things. So it's a bit like Diablo. I will be changing all this. but I wanted the template and I wanted the utility that comes with this this Obsidian add-on, which essentially allows you to reskin the UI really easily. So anyway, so I've got that in the scene. We've got the character here in the scene. It looks like the sun's about to come up. So that's good. I can actually start running around, and you can see that it's now a third-person controller rather than the original Gaia controller. And it's working quite well. I probably will do a fair bit of work with the camera to actually bring the camera closer to the character, or allow the player to roll the mouse wheel to actually get closer, a bit like you do in World of Warcraft. So you see the sun coming up there. There's a merchant. I've put him into a sitting animation, and he will basically just stand and sit down. He doesn't really do anything at the moment, but he is rigged to actually do the voiceover if I give him some voice. In fact, I might be able to, yeah, I'll probably demo that in a minute. The other guy, I've got the merchant in there twice. I've actually done a variation on the prefab for the other one. He's over here, and he's in a standing mode, and he's doing his exclaiming something or other. I don't know what he's saying. I can't remember what I had him saying. So if I go to the scene view while this is playing, and just quickly, let's pick up NPCs. Merchant, jump to the merchant, and I know the ocean, the water level has gone. So I'm going to turn off the river X because it's just annoying seeing that. Let's jump into the player there. There he is. So this is the merchant from Dary Palasky. I didn't focus on him. All right. Let's go into isometric view, just be a little bit easier to sort of work with there. And let's spin him around. Okay, so he's there. I've made him a little bit cross-eyed just to make him kind of interesting. And I've added some blend shapes to make him smile, and a few other things that will basically work on an animation cycle. Now, if I take a look at, have I got his stuff there? I go to the NPC. There he is. There's the SALSA stuff. I think you can see it on screen. If I bring the screen a little bit over there, you can see the SALSA player is there. If I do play,
why should I feel the darkness? It had. Why should I feel the darkness? It has no power over me.
Okay, so he's doing basically a line of audio. It's got an audio source in here, so there's a night vocal. I can actually put in a different audio file and play that, and it will process it in real time, process the audio in real time, and then use pre-configured shapes of the mouth based on the volume of that that playback, and it will then basically animate these visemes. So down here it's got these visemes. If I break them open, it's, well, actually let me do this setting here. There we go. So we've got these visemes. We've got a W, an F, a T, a TH, an OW, and an EE sound. So it's basically different mouth shapes. And you can see me sort of previewing them there. And it blends them with whatever he's doing at the moment. So you can see his eyebrows are going up and down. He's doing a bit of smiling every now and again, and it's blending it with the smile. So SALSA's doing all this stuff. But it's going to basically play those. If I put it in trigger mode, you can see there that each of these can be triggered, and they're actually on a curve. So they're actually set up to spawn these mouth shapes in that order. So starting with the W, then the F, then the T, as the audio gets, I think it's based on the volume, the amplitude of it, it will then basically kickstart this process and get broader. So it's not exactly phoneme shapes to the sound, but it's an approximation, and it works really well. And it doesn't take too long to set this up. So I'm actually going to do this with the Blacksmith as well. So anyway, Okay, that was a short one.
The day is ours.
Okay, so that's basically how that's going to work. And then obviously, depending on the dialogue lines that the player chooses in dialogue with these NPCs, then obviously it's going to switch in different audio files and present the dialogue text on screen as well. And then the character's going to obviously animate. So yeah, that's basically where I got to with this stuff this week. Let me jump back into the game view and just take you through what Exeter is starting to look like. So Isca Dumnoniorum. So I've basically got the weather system in here. I've managed to add global snow. So it is now, if it goes into a snow cycle, then it will actually drop a bit of snow around the character, or at least where the character is at the time. And I still haven't fixed the issue with the cropping of that distant renders. So I've still got to do some work there. The castle is starting to take some shape, and most of the terrain is now fixed up in terms of meeting the bottom of the buildings on the slope. I do need to actually speed up this character a little bit because it takes too long to jump around the world at the moment. So I'm going to go in RPG Builder and just go into the developer panel here and make this character run a lot faster. Okay, so his animation cycles very fast now. Won't be just like this in the game, but helps me sort of move around the scene a bit faster. So anyway, I'm going to take him over there. Sorry, back over this way. And we've got this area back here. We've now got an area that we can get into underneath the castle. The cameras obviously needs to follow the character more closely when they're inside a building. So that's one of the things I've noted. Just playing with these third-person characters in this scene is the camera is actually on the other side of the wall. It needs to detect an obstacle between the camera and the player, and obviously move the camera in until that obstacle goes away. So I've got to do some work with the cameras. But I will be using Invector third-person controller for the actual player controller. So at the moment, this is using the Blink one, I think. So I've got to switch that in. And that may have different camera aspects anyway. So if I go down here, this is basically where it's going to go down into the dungeon, or one of the many dungeons. So this is just a fake doorway, basically. But you can see I've lost the material on that, so it's gone pink. But yeah, that is basically ready to add another level underneath this the city. If I can get out, where are you? Can't see. I need to change the camera on this. But basically, we've got a castle here. I can go through the castle to some degree and get out the other side and actually get out to this side. So it's now starting to take shape as a city. The performance is a little bit laggy every now and again. I ran a compiled version the other day, and the compiled version works fine. So the frame rate's quite reasonable in the compiled version. In the editor, it's a little bit slow with all the other things going on, but I'm pretty happy with it. It's certainly looking good. The weather system is just making such a difference with the playability of the game. It just makes it really fun to sort of just explore the city. So yeah, what I'm going to do tonight is take the Blacksmith character, bring him into this project, reskin them basically with different shaders, put SALSA onto it, and then put him into the scene. So I'll have probably the same Blacksmith 2, maybe 3 times in different configurations so that they're not recognizable. There'll be a couple of prefab variations, and basically start putting them in this environment. I do have some other Blacksmiths as well, but I just wanted to get started with this one because the Dary Palasky models are so good. I think that's really worthwhile getting them in there. But yeah, so that's the merchant. I'm pretty happy with him. So he's just got his little sitting animation cycle. So all the scale issues that I had are fixed. So these characters are actually come in at the one scale. I didn't have to resize them. So something obviously went wrong with that original character scene with rescaling the characters, and I don't need to now do anything with that. So that's where I'm at. All right, so I'm now going to basically take the Blacksmith character in. He's not in the project at all, so I'm going to import this fresh. I have copied across all my other characters and animal packs from my other project into this one now. I've started sort of aggregating the things I need to build out the levels. So I have music and sound effects. I've got all my animation packs ready to go. I've got the player characters and a lot of the NPCs, animals and mounts. I've still got to bring in the Melbas. And what else have I brought in? That's about it, basically. I've got a lot of props and a lot of buildings and a lot of nature assets to bring in, but they're huge, so I may do them during the day before tomorrow's stream. Anyway, so I'm going to bring in this guy, this Blacksmith now. Let me just re-download it again, make sure I've got the very... Oh, it's on 1.0 anyway, so that's fine. So yeah, this it was only released 2 days ago, so it's a brand new asset. And I did have a look at this earlier in the day just to make sure that it looks fine. But yeah, I'm going to basically take you through the process that I follow from scratch so that you can see how I apply new shaders. Might give you some ideas. So, you know, if you're using the universal render pipeline or high definition render pipeline and you find an asset that you really, really like and it only supports the built-in render pipeline, this might give you some ideas on what you can do to make it work. All right, so let's import him. Hopefully it's not going to do too much messing around with the other assets that are in here. Oh no, there we go. All right. So basically he's got a base mesh, he's got materials, he's got prefabs, there's a stand for the demo scene, and there's some textures, and there's a two-sided shader which actually it shares the same shader as the merchant, and this is the built-in render pipeline one that I actually get rid of. So it's still in the project, but I don't use it, so that's fine. I'm going to import this now. All right, so there he is. I'm going to move that into my characters folder because I just like organizing stuff. We've got so many assets in here now. I need them to be reasonably organized. So I'm going to have a look at the Blacksmith scene and just jump across to the scene. I don't need the project settings window. That was for my build. Okay, so I've got the scene and it's all pink. So that's not really surprising. I'm going to jump to the Blacksmith. There he is. And the scene, actually, you can see the outline of him. So this is built-in render pipeline. I'm going to grab the stand and just hide it just so you can see what I'm talking about. So there's a number of assets in here. The stand, actually, if you look here, actually says standard. It's using the standard shader, which means if you go to edit, render pipeline, and upgrade the project materials, it should convert that that material without a problem, but it won't be able to convert any of the other stuff. So I think his eyes are actually converted, but I'm going to switch out the eyes anyway, so it's kind of not really relevant. So his eyes are rendering, but the rest of him obviously is using this two-side shader, which is the built-in render pipeline one. So here's the process I'm now going to follow to basically just work through all these parts. You could do it by going into the materials and actually just editing one material at a time, but I like to do it in the scene so I can see where they're actually used. It helps me get a better understanding of where that particular mesh is used on the character. So, well, basically, I'm going to select each one, press F to sort of jump to it, and click it again to actually select the underlying mesh. And before I switch the shader, I actually check by clicking on the main albedo. What I want to know is which textures it's using, because once you switch the shader, if it doesn't have the same shader parameters, same name of these objects, it'll actually disconnect them. And when you put on the new shader, you can't find your textures again. So it's worth making a visual note. I can see there that there's a few there that use this apron. So these 5 are the textures that are used on this. So that's good. They're named sensibly, which is great. Sometimes packs, not so much from this guy, but packs from elsewhere, they might be taking textures from lots of different folders, and it gets very tricky to kind of keep track of them all. But this is actually relatively straightforward because I did the merchant in the same way, and he's obviously structured the blacksmith exactly the same. All right, so I can identify these, and I should now be able to, I think that's opening Photoshop now because I double-clicked one. I should now be able to switch out that shader, and I'm actually going to use the Dawn Shader URP, which is the one that comes with the Quang Fan assets. These shaders I'm using pretty much on all the characters now, with the exception of the eye shader, which I'm using Eye Advanced for that. But this would be a clothing shader, so I'm going to pick clothing shader 2 sides because obviously you can see up here at the moment that shader's not working, but it should be rendering the inside of that piece of cloth. So if I do clothing shader 2 side, away goes the pink. You can see it's actually shared onto some other objects. So the belt here is actually using the same material. Yeah, and that's obviously using it all over the place, but it's black because it's lost the textures. So now all I need to do is match these up. So put the base color on there. You can start to see it coming out. I've got a metallic, a mixed ambient occlusion, a normal, and a roughness. And with the shader being so good, these Dawn shaders, they've got a lot of capability here to modify the effects. So, for example, what I may want to do with this is actually give that leather look. I could make it a rough leather look, or I can actually make it a little bit sort of shiny. So what I'm going to do first of all is just bring up these boosts, these metallic boosts, to sort of make these metal bits pop out a bit. I do want them to be a little bit... I certainly want them to be visible. And I think they're actually, they're shared between these and these, so you can't make this different to these. They're basically the same. Looks good. All right, and I'm now going to play with the roughness basically to try and get the roughness to look good. So right, so if you take the boost right down on 3 of them, you can actually get almost a wet look to the material, which looks great, but it probably isn't. It's a bit too reflective for my liking, but if I bring it down a little bit, you can actually get it looking like it is actually pretty worn leather. Like if you look at the belt, like the way that's been modeled is just excellent. The leather's really quite worn with the rips in the hole and everything. It looks very, very good. So you don't want to lose that by that doesn't look quite as good. I think you need to have some shininess to it to actually make it pop in the scene. So I'm thinking that looks pretty good. It's not too reflective, but you got to, it does look like it is actually made of leather. So that's where that sort of PBR materials thing comes out. All right, so that's that one done, basically. That's all there is to it. It's making a note of the textures, swapping the shader for another shader that is compatible with your render pipeline, and then reapplying those textures back into the right slots. And in some cases, you may be missing a metallic or a roughness or something, and you've got to kind of fudge it with something else to get it to look right. In this case, it actually worked quite well. So, all right, so now we're going to do the shirt. I think he calls it blouse here. So anyway, I'm going to just click the albedo, and I can see it's jumped to that second one there. So it looks like these are named consistently as well. And so I should be able to just go and switch this for clothing URP. I'll do it 2-sided because the inside of the cloth, I think, comes on the inside of the arm, and I don't want to have anywhere that's invisible. So I'll stick with this two-sided concept. Blouse base color, ambient occlusion, normal, roughness, and this one's one of those situations where there isn't a metallic. But what I've found with this is you can use the base color as a metallic. And then if you just bring down the metallic boosts and the roughnesses, you can actually get it to look normal. There we go. So it kind of looks a little bit sort of canvassy, which I think is right. It's matte. It's not supposed to be reflective in any way. It's not polished like the leather or sort of worn. It looks sort of canvas, and yeah, it does look really good. So yeah, the only thing there was to put the base color onto the metallic, because there isn't a metallic for this one, because it's not got any metallic nature in it. So that's the shirt. Let's do these pants. Same thing. There's 5 here that look like they're used, so that's good. So it becomes very, very quick. I'm probably taking a bit longer because I'm annotating this, my process, but once you get cracking with this, you can actually do quite a lot. You can probably do a whole character in 5 minutes, which means you can take a character that is not compatible with the render pipeline and fix it effectively. All right, so that's that. So that's this, and then basically you just got to fiddle with the settings to make it look right. All right, so they look kind of canvassy. There's a little bit of sort of reflection there. I'm not sure about that. I'm not really looking for that sort of wet look, so I'm going to bring down these boosts, and yeah, that's fine. Okay, cool. And let's take this glove piece over here. So this is other. So there's 5 textures associated with other, whatever that is. I'm going to use the clothing shader again. I'll use two-sided because I want to make sure I'm doing the inside, because you don't quite know how it's going to work, so I'll be on the safe side. So the base color, metallic, mixed AO, normal, and roughness. Again, I'm going to bring down these settings. That's just the default from the shader. So that looks to me like a bandage or something. It looks a little bit odd. It looks a bit I don't know. I think I want to sort of play a little bit with those settings and just see if I can get it looking a little bit better. Maybe not quite as bright. Yeah, I think that's probably more what I'm after. So you can see the two-sided part working. If I did a single-sided shader, I think I swap this for a single-sided, then you're going to lose the inside, which may not be a problem. It depends if the arm that's going through here crops out that whole area and you don't see inside. But if you do see inside, that's going to be a problem. So you really got to be careful with the two-sided shaders. Actually, let's have a look at the full kit here. Okay, he's got it on his wrist. You could probably okay, so there's a little bit there where the two-sided shader is needed because you got this gap. I mean, you probably never know that, but as a developer, when you're in the game a lot, you kind of realize that sort of stuff does matter. Otherwise, you miss that, you're going to miss other things too. So, all right, that's that one. Let's do the other glove. And looks like there's some sort of strap over the top of that. So this is gloves. There's 5 of those. So that should be straightforward. I'll do two-sided just because this opening at the back here is likely to be invisible otherwise. All right, so that's the leather glove, and at the moment it's got this sort of black part here, that's coming from these metallic boosts. So I need to bring them up. I actually don't want it I don't want it quite as sort of grey as that. I want it a little bit darker, and I really want to try and get the metal to show through on that, rather than look like cardboard. I want it to. So it's just playing with these boosts to try and identify which one is going to have the best effect on it. All right, so you can almost get like a water shader effect on this with the reflections. But if you drop them all to 0, then it just becomes very matte. It looks very cloth-like. Again, I've got leather across here, so I want to kind of make that. There we go. That's second one, the metallic boost. That's the darkness. Yeah, okay. I think that's probably what I'm after. All right. Let's see if we can get this glove looking more leather-like. So this part's starting to look a bit better, but the rest of the glove is a little bit too shiny. These roughness boosts 1, 2, 3, 4 are actually using this roughness mask here. So if I open this up a little bit wider here, so that is a 2D representation of the object, and basically the shading in there is going to tell the shader how to separate these 4 dials, basically. So it's like a mask for it, effectively. All right, let's see if I can get this looking, at least the point I'm happy with it. So I like the fact it's got a bit of shine on the leather part there. It's probably not too bad. Does it look consistent with this thing? Yep. Yeah, that's good. All right. Boots. And we got 4 boots. So probably they're not shiny, I would suggest. They're not supposed to be shiny. So I'm gonna make them 2-sided, I think. Just because I don't know if any of this, probably not going to be visible because I think if his legs are in there, it does curve over the top, so probably doesn't need to be 2-sided. And it might be a bit of an overhead to use 2-sided, but I'd rather be on the safe side at the moment. All right, base color, ambient occlusion, normal map, roughness, and then what I do is take the base color and put that into the metallic and bring all these dials down to 0. And there we go. So if I do want to make them a little bit shiny, I can. If I want to sort of bring out the sort of leatherness of them. Not a lot, just hinting at the type of material. I think that looks okay. All right, that's good. Okay, and then we've got this thing which looks like Mjolnir, and okay, so it's got 5 hammer things here. That really doesn't need to be 2-sided. It's convex all the way over. There's no concave part to it, so it certainly doesn't need to be a 2-sided shader. So I'm just going to use the standard shader. Sorry, the clothing shader URP. Base color, metallic, mixed, normal, and roughness. So a couple of things with the Quang Fan shaders, with these Dawn shaders that he's got. You can create a dirt texture basically to, I might be able to actually, if I grab a dirt decal base texture, there we go. So this, whatever you use as your texture here for dirt, it will apply that over the top. So depending on the look you're going for, you can kind of create quite unique looks to these things. It's quite a fancy look. But yeah, there's this dirt thing going over the top. You can, let me just bring these dials back down. And that one there. So if you don't have a texture in there, it's basically going to make it white. So that's what it's supposed to look like. But you can also add blend colors to it. So I don't know without the mask. Oh no, it's got a mask on there. So basically that's going to boost the red channel. But if you drag it this way, it's not going to work. No, you can't make it less than 0, so that's fine. Let's just put some different colors in here and see if you can. I'll just start showing you what you can do with this shader. So you can fiddle around here and start to get different effects with it. Most of them are probably going to make that just lighter because it's going to take the base color and just add color to it. Okay, so it's got a dirt roughness as well. Blend textures. So you can add these textures here, 1, 2, 3, 4, and use them. You've got an emission mask as well. So if you wanted to make this symbol that's on here glow, for example, you'd need to create a texture. So I'd need to probably grab this base color one, pop that out. You can see it there. So there's the texture on one side, there's the texture on the other side. Basically take a version of this and color it in with the right color to create a mask for that particular symbol over there. And then basically bring it in here as an emission mask. So you can do emission mask and you can do emission panner map, which basically can then scroll other colors through this, just this masked area. And you can obviously do the emission colors in different colors here. So you can boost, you basically make it glow where the mask is the right color. And that will allow you to sort of create this glowing effect. So if you're in darkness, it will actually glow the weapon. So I quite like these. I'm going to just put this in here for later. I like to just put some primary colors in there just to play with. Drop those back to 0 for now. So they're in there, ready to go. And I may do some stuff with emission masks a bit later, but it works quite well with that shader. That does a really great job. And you just plop something in this emissive panner map, and it will animate a movement through that masked area, which means not only does that area glow, but it can have this sort of animated effect going behind it, like blood dripping or lightning bolts sort of buzzing around in the background of just that part of it. So it does require a little bit of photoshopping to edit that. But I've got the tablet here and a pen, so it's a lot easier to do than trying to do it with the mouse. But yeah, that sort of thing is very doable. All right, so that guy's done. Mostly, I think that metal area there, I want to try and get that looking a bit more, a bit shinier. So I'm just going to boost up the roughness, I think. Just be careful that it doesn't do this sort of blue effect on it. I need to make sure that I'm not screwing it up overall. Let's actually do the metallic boost. Not so much metallic. That's probably looking a little bit better, I think. Probably a little bit too shiny. Yeah, that's better, I think. I've got this sort of, this effect here is hard to control. I don't know what's causing it, but this sort of blue effect coming through might just be the lighting in the scene. It's certainly something to do with the metallic mask on this thing. That's not too bad. All right. I think I'm happy with that. Okay. You can always tweak it later. All right, and then the rest of the stuff is basically the dude with all his stuff. So let's go into one of the faces and do some work. All right, so basically exactly the same thing again. This time the mesh is for the head and the shoulders and the sort of front part of the chest, and there's different. It's got multiple materials in here. If you open that panel, you can see it's head, body, eyelashes, eyes, teeth, and beard, and only one of them is working, which is the eyes, using the Universal Render Pipeline Lit. And the reason that works is because I think the shader that was on there was standard, and standard will get converted to lit in the Universal Render Pipeline. So that's worked, but I'm going to switch out the eyes anyway. They're okay in this model, actually. They look quite good, but I want to use the Eye Advanced pack just to keep consistency across all the characters. All right, so let's take the head material first of all. I need to make sure I'm looking at the albedo. There it is. So there's 4 head textures and 4 body textures that will be basically the same. So the head texture there, it always looks really weird with these head textures, but basically it's like folding out the face into 2D. So he's got some scars, and I may actually take that into Photoshop and repair the scars so that there's a version with him scarred and a version without. And I think that could be the tongue. Maybe not. Might be. I don't know what that is. What that part is. It's hard to kind of keep track of where these parts join up. That looks like a piece of neck. That's the other piece of neck. I don't know quite how it does it, but yeah. Anyway, so let's we use those textures. This time round, I'm going to use the skin shader. It doesn't really need to be two-sided, but you'll notice the beard in there is probably the big thing to worry about. The skin, probably not so much, but the beard, I think, may need a hair shader instead of a skin shader. So I'm going to take this and put it to Dawn Shader, Skin Shader. So he starts to become visible, and we'll put the base is skin color. There we go. He's pretty shiny at the moment. So I'm going to do something about that. And mixed AO, normal, and roughness. This one. So there's a roughness mod there, which is actually coming from the female knight, because the female knight's the first character that I actually got this shader from. So I'm going to get rid of that one there. So it's already looking 100 times better. She looks really, really good. Like the quality of the mesh is awesome. So it's just a little bit too shiny. It looks like he's been in the rain. So I'm just going to bring down the emissive power, the hair cap roughness. We haven't actually got the hair cap on there. Where are we? You can change the skin pores, but you need the skin pore texture, which I think is a normal. That's not making a huge, just making a little bit of difference, but not much. You can kind of see it on his nose here. A little bit of change in, so it's applying the same normals again over the top, just to add a bit more detail to it. And you can change the tiling on this as well. So this shade is actually very, very powerful for creating variants on this. Make him a bit more weathered. Screen space, sorry, that's not screen space reflections. This is actually subsurface scattering. And what I do is I use the skin color and put that into that SSS mask. and that just allows it to have that subsurface scattering effect that looks quite good on characters, mostly noticeable sort of under the neck and things like that. What else do we want to do? So haircut roughness. We're not doing much with that. Okay, let's put these other textures in. I'll probably do a bit of tweaking with this. So that's, I'm going to save this scene. I've got to apply this to the prefab as well still. Let's do the body. So the body is going to be these ones up here. Same process, skin. And I will do it at, yeah, I think I'll do it with the skin shader URP. So this will affect the rest of the body as well. Base color, skin color, there we go. And get rid of that roughness map, don't need that. Ambient occlusion, normals. And again, I'll do the normal and the skin pore normal thing again. And what else was there? Roughness. Right. I don't know if this roughness mod. Yeah, it's not having any noticeable change there. And then I'll put the base color onto the subsurface scattering as well. So you can kind of see it on the neck there. You just kind of see the effect. It's basically light bouncing and sort of lighting the skin from underneath, which sort of makes it a little bit more realistic. It's already pretty realistic as it is. All right, so that's starting to take shape. Let's do the beard. And so the question here is whether to use, there's 4 there, there's no opacity. So the question is what to use. Just finding an appropriate shader. I can't remember on the other one whether I used the hair shader. So that's the default hair shader, which only needs an alpha, which I think is the opacity. There you go. So that kind of works. You don't really need these other parts to this to make it work with this hair shader from Quang Fan. I probably would bring down the metallic because beards aren't shiny unless they're wet, so that looks good. Probably, that's it. Not much else to do. You can, with this hair shader, take this MIP bias to actually make it sort of almost cartoon-like, or you can scroll it back to actually make the hair finer. So let's put it on. I think it might have performance implications if you make it too detailed. So let's put it on 1. And the other thing you can do here is to change the colors. So you can give them a green beard. It's got a lot of control over this, basically, or grey or whatever. So I'm not quite sure about these tangent colors. Yeah, opacity boost, so you can actually thin it out and thin out the dither as well. So the dither generally has more effect at the bottom level, I think. There you go. That looks a bit scraggly. So yeah, it can kind of, it's really just a question of fiddling with the settings to come up with something that looks good. So let's do what I normally do, which is a very low opacity, and then roll back the dither. And you can see up here, it's actually, it's dithering it fine. It looks, yeah, I mean, you can see it's got a block on the end, but it's actually dithering it out fine. So yeah, it's a very good shader. All right, eyelashes and teeth. Obviously the teeth you can't see because they're inside the mouth. We won't know that until we get to the blend shapes on the face. All right, so there's the teeth, and that can be done with the skin shader. base color and normals, and I'll probably fiddle with these settings once we've got him. Actually, yeah, no, I'll come back and do that because we're going to do the mouth, the blend shapes for the mouth, for SALSA, for the lip sync. Eyelashes. Now, on a lot of other models, these are all separated meshes, so you can actually click on the eyelashes in some other models. Not from Dary Palasky. These ones are sort of embedded in the head mesh with these different elements, so you can't click it. You've got to select the appropriate material here, eyelashes, and that material is obviously what we're modifying. So this has been the one that I've had a little bit of trouble with because the only file that relates to it is an opacity. Now, I found that the best way to do this is to use the Dawn shader, hair shader, and you can see he's now got a lot of mascara on, but if you use the eyelash opacity as an alpha, basically that alpha is then going to give the shader information to say where it's white, draw in the eyelashes, where it's transparent, don't do anything at all. So that's how you get to sort of do a cutout effectively. And then you can fiddle with the roughness and the dithering and all those other things. So metallic boost to make it shiny or whatever. So just about getting it's probably enough to hint at eyelashes, but not enough to make him look dressed up. All right, so that's that one done. Let's take the second one. This is obviously a variant, and do the same process and just see what happens. It's a Voyager discovery a lot of the time. It's good fun. So, all right, so this one is all right. So it's this one down here. Okay, I can see. All right, so the fifth material is different. So it's a head material, but it's head without scar, so without hair and scar. So I can be fairly assured I probably don't need to create one that hasn't got the scar. I think this one's probably already been edited, but it doesn't have hair. So if I wanted one with hair without a scar, I have to create my own. But that's okay. We can work with this. So that's that one. And he's got an occlusion coming from the other one, so that the occlusion texture is actually coming from the one that this one was using. And the roughness is also coming from there. Okay, so it's splitting between two folders. All right, so this is a skin shader. And this will be the skin color and the normal. And I put the normal on the skin pore as well. Really notice it. I personally can see a little bit of movement when I'm changing the dial there just on the eyebrow, but it's not really that noticeable. Now the other ones are coming from this main folder here. So it's the head roughness and mixed AO, I think. There we go. All right, so it's starting to look pretty good. Obviously there's no beard on this one. So that's how you get different variants of the guy. And then we've got hair separately, so that's good. Let's go into that one. And there's a folder with the hair stuff, so that's good. Let's use the hair shader. And drop. Actually, in this case, we actually only need the opacity as the mask. There we go. So if we have a look at that, it's a little bit shiny. So that's probably the metallic boost. There you go. Drop that right down. Maybe just very slightly. Okay, that's good. And one more. Okay, it's a head without scar. So it's going to be a skin shader, skin color, normal, normal, and then that's the head. So I'm going to get the right one here. If you use the body, a body texture on a head mesh, you get a really weird effect, like that. So you'll know you've done something wrong with the texture when you get these cut lines, because that's not designed to go with it. It looks really bad. It's not designed to go with it at all. So you can tell you've made a mistake somewhere when you see that. All right, so I need the head, mixed AO, head normal I've got already, roughness. Oh, that's the other thing, is I should have done that with the other one, the subsurface scattering. So this one, was it this one? No, I think it was this one here. I need to do head here. Put that in there. That's better, because I'll forget to do it later. All right, it's just the body to go. So body without hair. Okay, so this has a folder with stuff, and there's one without scar as well. So there's quite a few variations that he's created here, which is great. Skin shader. So using the body base color, get rid of that roughness one. Put that in the triple S. And we do the normals. Normals again. And roughness. And then the other two come from here. So body mixed AO and body, was it roughness? Oh, there was a roughness in there already. Okay, so the roughness for the scars, basically, if you change out the texture, but you don't change out the roughness or the normals, then the scar may still appear sort of raised. So that's where you need to have sometimes multiple textures to make it look right. So that's basically done. That's the finished dude in this configuration. So in this particular one, he's, you know, bearded and scarred, but I could easily swap that out. We're just dropping a different material in there. So he's basically ready to go. What I want to do is just change the eyes out. These aren't bad eyes at all. They're really very good, but I do want to use the pack that I've been using for the other one. So rather than lit. So this one's actually only got one base color of eyes, which is this blue. I think his merchant one's got different colored eyes, but I'm going to use the other pack that I use all the time, Eye Advanced, and pop that in there. And I'll then go and grab the textures for that, which I've now named meaningfully. Let's pin that. Okay, so we've got a cornea, we've got an eye normal map. Let's give him an iris to start with, and bring the pupil size down. No, it's not the pupil, it's the iris size 4, and we need the sclera iris there. Sclera texture is that one. There we go. Starting to look a bit better. Iris normal map. No, iris mask. Iris normal map. Sclera shade texture. All right, so that should have. Yeah, so it's got the right things there now. It's now a question of getting a little bit of tweaking. So we want a little bit of eye sclera, not too much, but just a tad. And the brightness I actually bring down a little bit. looks good. Let's look on this guy. I think the camera's cropping it out at dynamic cropping. If we do it 0, there we go. We should be able to get a bit closer. All right. So yeah, the eyes are looking pretty good, but I can now drop in these other ones and obviously create lots of variations here. Quite easily, and of course I can take these textures and Photoshop them to create variations on a theme here, just by adding a bit of different color to each of these textures. So quite like that one. All right, so that's that part done. So from the look of it, he's now finished that from that regard. Let's take it out of isometric. All right, so save the scene, and I'll quickly show you how these blend shapes work. So the head, all right, let's have a look at the structure of this. Blacksmith, is that you? Yeah, that's you. Get rid of all that stuff. All right, so the pad. Okay, so he's got this tool on the side with all the stuff. You've then got the mesh of the blacksmith, and you've then got the armature. So this if we're using RPG Builder to equip him with other stuff, like maybe he becomes a player character, then I would put this in an armature folder. But basically you've got the pelvis. What I actually want to do now is probably unpack this in a minute, because I want to put SALSA on it. Pelvis, spine, neck, head. So you can see here that the armature doesn't go down to the eyes or the mouth. So you'd think when you look at this armature structure, that character's not going to be able to do lip sync. But it can, because the artist has actually embedded in the head a set of blend shapes. Just got to find them. So that's the trick. Clicking into it is the way to do it. SK full body, skinned mesh renderer is what you're after, and then you've got the blend shapes there. So if you click on anything else, hopefully you can get to it. I've got it locked actually on this, but if you click around, you can see a lot of the items don't. The main character doesn't. He's got an animator. So you actually have to go into the meshes to actually, so I think it's probably at this level, even at this level in the mesh structure, you still can't see those blend shapes. So you do have to be patient, sort of figure out how to get to the head. And in this case, it's SK full body is what we want. And we've then got these blend shapes that have been already factored into the model. Let me put it in isometric view. It's a bit easier to sort of see what's happening here. But now we can get them to do stuff, you know. And some of these blend shapes they're just really, really good. What's up? You have a lot of fun with them. So there's quite a few in here, like so yeah, it's quite good. What I'm actually going to do, the SALSA Lipsync stuff with it on the guy, the version of him that doesn't have the beard, because I want to see the shape of the lips a bit easier. So we'll get onto that in a moment, but I'll quickly sort of show you that these blend shapes, if you didn't have the bones embedded in the armature to do this, or you didn't have objects you could move around and change the transform positions, then you need the blend shapes to be able to do this. Otherwise, basically the character's got no way of doing any sort of facial animation. But these are really good. You can really use these to create very expressive dialogue. There's a blink up here somewhere, so we can make him blink. We just need to be able to control these dials And that's where SALSA is coming in. SALSA is going to basically be wired up to spawn these emotes. They're called emotes, and each emote might actually move both the blink left and right, or I can make him look goofy. And so you predefine which of these blend shapes go into making a smile, and then you might define a different one that's a big smile, and periodically or randomly it's going to call that routine, and then it's going to animate to, it's not going to do it immediately, it's going to animate to that over a number of seconds and then come back out of that into the next cycle of something else. So it allows you to really call on all these blend shapes and expressions in accordance with the dialogue. And of course you want them to blink too, so it's going to factor all that in. So I'm going to save that. I'm going to now go to the version of him that's this one. I'm going to use this one. And I believe that this version should be able to, if I change this skinned mesh render, it should be on the other one. So what I'm going to do is unpack this guy, I think. I just want to be able to apply this sensibly. So it's coming off that mesh. All right, so let's take this guy. It's not deactivated. Because he's different body parts, that's why. Okay. Heads, SK head, SK head 2. So what I need to be careful is if I do the work on this, will it apply it to this one? That's my question. All right, let's take this guy. So there's the armature. Jaw open and go back out and apply. Actually, I want to go back into that. Open in isolation. No, I don't. What I want to do is I want to apply all the changes I've already made. So I want to go to overrides, apply all. Yeah, so I just want to check that those overrides have been applied to each of these prefabs. And when I set up the SALSA, I only want to do it once, so I don't want to create a problem where one of them's rigged and the other one isn't. And it may mean sort of creating two, recreating one of these, just switching the materials over. I think that's probably what I'm going to have to do. So I think what I'll do is I'm going to work on this SK Blacksmith here. But give him the other material. Head without hair, head without scar. Okay, so scar's gone. We want the beard. Beard. Head without hair. I wonder if that's going to work. So there's one there that's actually still got the pink shader. So obviously there's some assets left behind that aren't in the scene, but they are still using the built-in render pipeline. So that's interesting. And you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to apply, because I can copy that I can copy the salsa components from the other one. I actually want to build. I want to use this guy because I can see his mouth better. And I need to do the blend shape stuff on him. I need to see what he's doing here. So what I want to do is grab. Actually, want to bring in. Let's move that up. SK head 2. I'm going to unpack that prefab. Okay, so I've got that. I'm just going to flag that so I can find it easily. I want to bring in the merchant because I want to reference his blend shapes that I created. So I spent a couple of hours on that yesterday. NPC merchant, drop him in the scene. Seriously? Come on, guys. Get the hair out of the way. Right. Okay. Of course, he's in the wrong place. He needs to be up front. Well, come on. Right. So you're in line. Cool. So I can now jump between those two because this one, if I take him, on the main character, so on the whole of the character now, I've got the salsa components set up here, and I want to basically copy them to the other one and then reattach the components to these individual skin mesh renderers. So I need to be able to do that. This guy's eyes look a bit strange because I think I've made the pupils a bit too small. I think it looks a bit better at about 3. Yeah, it just looks really weird if the pupils are too small or too big. You've got to get it right. All right. So can I do it on that guy? Because that's the whole character I want to do it on. I think that's what I want to do. Let's copy those. We need an audio source on him. Okay, so it's attached. We need a Q processor. Then we need the main salsa component. And I'm then using Emoter, which does a lot of the sort of facial animations outside of speaking. So like eyebrows and, blinking and those sort of things. Sorry, not the blinking, the twitching or the sniffing and those sorts of things. Put that on there. And then the eyes basically will do the blinking. Paste as new. Okay, so let's get this guy now working. Get it wired up to him. All right, so we've got an audio source already. Q processor is good. Salsa. Okay, so open that up. And you can see it's referencing the NPC merchant's audio source. That actually needs to be this audio source here. So that's the Blacksmith. and the Q process coming from the Blacksmith, and the Emoter is coming from the Blacksmith. So this is going to talk to itself now, not to the merchant. We're basically looking for any references back to the merchant, and it's going to be in here. These meshes here are going to be coming from the merchant, so this is where I've got to rework them. All right, so the head, the skinned mesh renderer actually needs to come from, not from that guy. That is the merchant's head. So that's this part. We want it to come from the blacksmith's head. Which I actually think is full body, believe it or not. So I think he's actually modeled differently in this one. Okay, there we go. And I've named these to make it easy to sort of work through. So mouth funnel. If I do a preview mode, there we go. So he should be doing the same movement with the same amount of movement as the merchant now, which means I don't need to set up these visemes at all. They're already done. I might do a couple just to kind of show how that works, but I think that's now just a question of putting this, not that one. We want the full body onto there, and then we just want to change the blend shape. So it's basically, this is where I'm now calling those blend shapes that were in this thing here. I'm calling these and saying to SALSA, pass in mouth funnel 100 as your maximum value, and that's going to basically be part of this viseme, which will be called through the audio playback. That's how that works. So I've named these to be really easy to work with. So mouth funnel is called mouth funnel, mouth pucker. It's obviously, as I've dropped in the new one, it's defaulted to something else, but it's kept the values, which is handy. So mouth pucker. I didn't know if it was going to keep those values. All right, so we should be able to do that. Yep, that's cool. Let's zoom in on his face. So I actually don't need to remove the beard to do this because the positions should be fine. I'm going to choose that. I'm going to lock the view. Mouth shrug lower. So that should be, let's close up some of these. Make it a bit easier to see the one I'm interested in, which is this one. Okay, so this is mouth shrug lower. And this was just a process of trial and error yesterday, was to experiment with these various shapes, blend shapes on his face, figuring out, you know, when you smile or when you say a th sound, what does the tongue do? Where's the mouth? What's the mouth shape doing? And I just found these numbers worked with this particular model. I don't know, well, with the merchant, I don't know if it's going to work with this model. Actually, his eyes look too big now. Anyway, I'll fix that in a minute. Mouth shrug upper. Okay, so that's, I believe, no, I've got one left to do, this one here. So I need to put that in there. Mouth shrug upper. All right, so that is the current worst sound, and I think I probably do need to fiddle with that. I don't think it's quite right. I just need to sort of play with the position. It's almost right.
You have been weighed, you have been measured, and you have been found wanting.
So you can see what it's doing when I do the preview. It's actually jumping between these visemes, but because they're still wired to the merchant, it's probably the merchant who's actually doing the voice thing. It's only kicking off this W viseme when it's relatively quiet.
You have been weighed,
you can see it jumping.
You have been measured, and you have been found wanting.
So it's only animating this guy with the W. So I need to do these other ones to get it to work. And we don't really know if it's going to look realistic until we do all of them. So let's crack on. Let's just close a few of these up. Okay, so that's Visime 1, which is the W sound. Let's do the F. I'm going to turn off the preview. Okay, so full body. And this one is jaw forward. Yeah. And the next one, mouth roll lower. Mouth roll lower. These are alphabetical, which is handy. Okay, so I'm getting lost here. Hang on, there we go. So there's only 2 shapes involved in this first sound, and it's basically to put the bottom lip under the teeth and move it back a bit, move the jaw back forward. But there's a jaw forward, but I'm moving it to -20, which moves it back. So if I move it way back and preview, you can see you can do all sorts of stuff with it. But yeah, I'm putting it on minus, I think I had -20. So the F gives you the movement of the bottom lip in there. So that's your F sound. And we can do a W and a F at this point. So that as we do more of these, that references thing is going to start working.
Weighed, you have been measured, and you have been found wanting.
So it'll get better and better as we do more Visimes. All right, so the next one is T, and there's 5 blend shapes involved in this process, I found. Just from trial and error. All right, so we want this one is jaw open. This one, mouth lower down left. Mouth lower down left. Mouth lower down right. Mouth smile left. And mouth smile right. Right, so a good test is when you preview it, do you get the shape of a T? T, T, T. Yep, looking right. W, w, f, f, f. Yep. T, t, t. Yep. So that's looking like it should work reasonably well. Again, it's not all phonemes; they're Visimes, but they're an approximation of the mouth shape from the amplitude of the audio, so it's quite clever how it does it, but it's not exactly right, so it's not always going to come up with the correct Visime. Okay, we've got a th sound, which is tongue on the bottom of the top teeth. So there's again 5 components here. Jaw open. It's a lot quicker when you've got the values in here and you're not doing the experimentation so much. And of course, it's a lot quicker if I'm not talking. Mouth, lower down left. Mouth, lower down right. Mouth, smile left. Mouth, smile right. And tongue out, because he's doing a th sound, so you need the tongue to come forward a bit. That one, tongue out. Okay, so let's do a quick test of this shape. You can see the tongue is moving, but we can do other things as well if we need to, because this model will be a different shape to the other one, so I'll probably need to tweak them a little bit. Hopefully not too much. All right, so that's starting to look good. 2 more to go, and obviously the shapes are getting wider and bigger to emphasize the louder sounds. Jaw open. Mouth lower down left. Lower down left. I've called these exactly what the blend shapes are, just to make it really easy to find them. Don't have to do that. Mouth lower down right. Lower down right. Did I do? Yeah, lower down left, lower down right. Mouth pucker. Mouth smile left. Mouth smile right. Mouth upper left. Mouth upper up left. Mouth upper up left. Mouth upper up right. Mouth upper up right. All right, so this should be an ow sound. That looks about right. Ow. And an E. Jaw open. Mouth shrug lower. Mouth shrug lower. Mouth shrug lower. Mouth smile left. This is only using a handful of the blend shapes as well. I mean, you probably use a whole lot more than this to model it more, because there's a lot of animation I'm doing with the face that I could do with more time. Mouth smile right. Smile right. Mouth stretch left. Mouth stretch right. Okay. Put it in preview mode. E. Yep. Okay. So just testing them. So we've got a w, f, t, th, ow, and an E. And if we do preview config, this will play that audio, and it'll trigger each of these visemes, and you'll see it on the louder segments. It'll actually be playing these bottom visemes, and on the quieter ones, it'll be doing the W. So
you have been weighed, you have been measured, and you have been found wanting. You have been weighed.
All right, let's take that preview off, and I think it's this one.
You have been weighed.
No, I want to do. Is it that?
You have been weighed.
Or is it that?
You have been weighed.
Oh, that's what I want. I want it in display mode.
You have been weighed. You have been measured, and you have been found wanting.
So he's not doing the ow very often. He's not doing the E very often either. So we could do a linear change, which will basically spread them out linearly and probably use them more equally. Or we can do the curve. So it's trial and error.
You have been measured, and you have been found wanting.
No, that doesn't look right. So the curve is definitely more what we want.
You have been weighed.
That's better.
You have been measured, and you have been found wanting.
That's not bad. I think that's probably good enough to shove him in the scene, give him various points of dialogue, and then tweak it once that's up and running. His eyes are too big, so I'm going to take iris size to 3.5, I think. Yeah, it looks a bit. Yeah, and it's, of course, he's not blinking, so let's configure that part. So we need the guy, and that's basically the SALSA Lipsync, but of course we've got the emoter and the eyes. So let's get the eyes going. It's referencing the merchant, and we don't want that. It's referencing the top level of the merchant, so we don't want that. We want this to reference the top level of the blacksmith. Actually, yeah, no, that's right. Yeah, this guy. Q processor is going to be this guy. SK Blacksmith. You can give them a look target, so the look target will be generally the player. If he's an NPC, the look target, you plug in the players here. Or if they're looking at another NPC because you've got a three-way dialogue, then you might actually switch this look target and based on the dialogue of who's doing what. And the affinity means that they will basically, they won't look away. They'll continue to look at that player or at that target. So you could make it so they look off in the distance even. So, all right, so that's that part. The head configuration we need, but it needs to be based on what I've done here with the other one. So the template's already been applied. It's going to use blend shapes. It's not going to use bone rotation or sprites or anything like that. It's going to use these blend shapes. And I need the renderer. So the head, I think that's the SK body is going to be in there. And we now need to choose the eyes. And SK body, yep. And we need to get, is that right? No, it's not the brow inner, it's the eye. Eye blink left, I think that is. I can't remember this is eye look down left. I think this is eye. That may be okay. Right eyelids, that's the eyelids. Eyelid configure. We're talking about the eyes, not the eyelids. So I need to go back here just a second. Eye look down left. I think that's what that's supposed to be. And there are 4 because they're using top and bottom eyelids from what I read in the documentation, but I don't know why I've got 4 in here. I think they're referencing the same things, to tell you the truth. Down right, let's just give it a try and see what we get. Can't remember exactly how I did this. It didn't take long. Okay. And we got an eye, gizmo, I1. So these are supposed to be left. Look down left. Actually, let me check the merchant because I blink left. I blink left. Okay, it's the blink. I was right. I blink left. I blink left. I blink left. So I think what it's doing is these components, the direction, lower, right, upper. Yeah, okay, so there's 4 controls on the eyelids, and there's upper left, upper right, lower, and left. And that's why you've got 4 per eye. And it's saying, look at the blink left, the left eye blink blend shape, and grab the top, left, bottom, and right parts of it and do the animation to 100%. And that's basically what gives you a complete blink cycle. That's how it works. I blink left, I blink left, I blink, no, that needs to be I blink left. Okay, so that's the left eye. And this one will be full body skin mesh renderer, and this will be I blink right. I just didn't name them meaningfully. I blink right, I blink right, I blink right. Okay. And then the eyelid configuration needs to use that. And the eyelids are then left eyelid, right eyelid. Again, I'm going to use the skin mesh renderer. And we're doing left eyelid, left blink, right eyelid, right blink, right. And that should be it. Preview mode. There you go. Interesting. He's got a scar on his eyelid. I didn't notice that before. And then you've got this eye tracking. So you can increase the percentage or give him different eye movements, basically. That should be enough to make him blink intermittently in conversation. The other thing is emotes. I'll get onto emotes in a minute. So I think the eyes are done. It's really just the emoter. Let's put him in play. Now let's put him in play mode and see if he does what he's supposed to do.
You have been weighed, you have been measured, and you have been found wanting.
Okay, so it's playing it once because I've not got it on a loop. So if I go to the SALSA references, I can play it interactively.
You have been weighed, you have been measured, and you have been found wanting.
Let's pick some more sort of blacksmithy lines for the audio rather than something threatening like that. Let's choose the knight because that's what I've got, the stock lines. Let's see if I can find. Oop, let's lock him. Nope, I want to lock the whole dude. And we're in play mode, so that's not going to work. Right. Let's do that. Lock that. Okay. We want the audio source, and we want to find an audio source that's going to work for a blacksmith. That could work. Where are you, SALSA? There you are, references.
How can I help you?
That's not too bad.
How may I help you?
Haven't got anything else here.
Construction complete. Arrows!
Okay, it's obviously for battle.
Thank you.
Probably use...
Your wish is my command.
Yeah, a little bit too subservient. Let's use these custom lines. They're actually not custom. They're just out of a pack, but I just want to use something that's a longer routine so that I get more animation going. I can check stuff out better. You require my assistance. That might be.
You require my assistance?
Good, that'll do. That'll do. All right, so we've got him doing that. Let's put the playback on a loop so that we can... It gets annoying after about 3 loops, but I'll turn the volume down a little bit. Let's just check that out, make sure that's...
You require my assistance? You require my assistance?
Okay, so he's not doing the eye animation because we're not in play mode. All we're doing is we're previewing SALSA, not the eyes. Let's just have a quick look at the emoter, because this does basically finish off the realism aspects of this thing. So what we want here, again, is the blacksmith to go in there, and we've got some settings about how often it's going to choose which facial movements to do. So generally it's sort of eyebrows, frowning, the nose sort of sniffing. It could be a twitch, it could be a head movement, it could be all sorts of things. And I've configured 5 on my merchant. I'll probably use the same here. So I've got a sniff, which isn't wired up to him yet. So a sniff, a smile, a big smile, a smirk, and eyebrows. I thought that was quite funny for the merchant to give him this smirk. So we'll see how this goes with this character. I'm going to basically configure these now, the same as doing before, basically switching out the shape and putting in this guy. So we want that one, and this is nose sneer left. Nose, if he's got that. Yes, he's got the same shape. That's good. So it should start. There you go. So it's starting to do that. Nose sneer left. Nose sneer right. So he's got a sniff. Cool. And it will do that intermittently. And we've got a smile. And there's 6 parts to this smile. So to get it to look realistic. So mouth smile left. Mouth smile. Smile left. Smile right. Brow inner up. Actually, I should explain how I came about with these settings, because they're not always obvious. Like the mouth shapes for the talking is pretty obvious, but these ones were sort of invented. And the way I found to do it was to take the character's face and go into the blend shapes. Actually have this in a separate inspector, so I have 2 inspectors, one with the head locked on, one with the inspector locked on the head with the blend shapes, so that I could sort of create this look that I'm after, which might be, you know, a number of these things together, and they might not be at 100, they might be at 45, or some of them might actually go negative to sort of, you know, like the jaw in and out, and I'd have that panel up locked, and then what I'd do is go into SALSA on the whole character, and then each of these ones that I've got a value in, you've got to create a component for, and then you use these values if that's the look you're after, if that's the maximum look, and then what it would do is animate to that maximum look, and then come back out of it and do the next the next emote. So that could be an emote, you know, like a pained expression or something, or a squint or a flinch or something. So any one of these could be used with a value between 0 and 1, but you can also over bake them and under bake them. You can keep going. You know, if you keep making these values even you melt someone's face with it. So these can be any values, but having that panel, that inspector open with the blend shapes at the same time that you're actually building up and referencing all these blend shapes is very handy. But it was literally to make it, to figure out what a smile looks like. It was kind of, okay, let's take the 2 smiles, but then what about, you know, there's a shrug up, or is it, you know, mouth? Do you show a bit of teeth? There's dimples, you know. So this is all down to what's in that model, and some might work for one model and not for another. So yeah, it's literally find a look, and you need to just record which blend shapes and what the values are, and then plumb that into the SALSA Emoter and test it. And what it should do is it should then replace these values back to 0, back to the full amount, back to 0, and then you're good to go. Basically, you've got an emote recorded, and then you can test it like that. That's still using the wrong guy, so that's actually not, he's not fully done yet. So SK body, mouth mile left, SK body, mouth mile right, brow inner up. Okay, I got to here. So we want this thing here, brow outer left up. Sorry, brow outer up left. So I made him the brow go up on one side but not the other. That's just for a look, just to make it interesting. Cheek squint. This brings the cheek up to make the eye close a little bit. Cheek squint left, cheek squint left. Cheek squint right. Okay, so let's give that a go. Yeah, so you can see his left eyebrow is raised more than his right. I could very easily just add a component here and call it brow outer up right. Put the blend shape's actually copied down. I just need to pick the right blend shape now. Mouth, sorry, what was it? Brow outer up right. And I've got 20, but I could increase that. So if I make that 100, for example, or 200, really excessive. Yeah, basically just create a look with the character. I might do it a little bit different with this guy just to change it up. 20, yeah. So his eyebrows going to go. He's on his smile. His eyebrows going to go up on the other side than the merchant. So that's an emote, and it won't just go on off. It'll actually animate from one emote, and it will randomize them, the occurrence of them, and it can do a lip sync emphasizer, which means every time he's talking, the eyebrows are going to go up. It doesn't have to be always, but it can be randomized as well, and then it will animate to that within a certain fraction of a second, and then it'll animate from that to something else or back to nothing, back to his sort of another thing. So you get these temporary, just for a millisecond or two, you're getting these short emotes happening. So it's quite effective. All right, so that's the smile. Let's do the big smile. There's lots more involved in a big smile. Let's close that up again, make it easier to see. Let's just rock through these, get it done. Mouth smile left. Mouth smile right. Mouth press left. Mouth press right. Now I've got one called component 4, which is obviously not quite right. It looks like I've copied it from the previous one, so I'm going to get rid of that because it's using mouth press right, and I've already got it there. So that was obviously a problem with the merchant. I'll have to go and fix that one up. Jaw open. So when he's doing a big smile, he's going to actually open his mouth a little bit, open his jaw. So let's go jaw open. Actually, you know what I'm going to do? No, I'm going to mess with it too much because I did a fair bit of work on this yesterday. I don't want to screw it up. Brow inner up. So that's the middle of his eyebrows. Brow outer up left. Whoop. I lost something there. I tried dragging something. Brow outer up right. Let's lock the inspector. Cheek squint. So this is going to move his cheek up and sort of squash his eye a little bit. Cheek squint left and cheek squint right. All right, so look at this. Cool. Now, so there's a problem with this particular model with those values. Those values combined into this shape, the combination of them is obviously pushing his teeth through his lip. So it needs a little bit of fiddling. And I'll need to probably just experiment a little bit with it's the right side of his face. So let's go mouth press right. And you can see that's probably what's doing it, is this mouth press right one. It's just finding the value that doesn't clip it. And of course, the other thing is to go from the side and look at what's actually happening and figure out why it's doing that. So when you do the mouth press, it's actually bringing the side of the mouth back into his teeth. So you don't want too much of that, but you do want to move it out. So you can do mouth stretch right. If I change that, it kind of moves his whole cheek out. Oh God, that looks horrible. So you kind of got to be careful with this stuff. Mouth, and you'd think it'd just be smile, but it's the smile itself can look a bit weird if you overbake it. So I'm going to put that back to press right. I'm just going to use a value that is not quite as extreme. So he's got a bit of a wonky smile, but people do. They're not always symmetrical. So I'm just going to use that. Looks a bit weird on this side. So the left side's probably overbaked for this model too. I had it 100. It doesn't need to be 100. So I'll do like 25. And it looks okay. All right, so that's the big smile. And we got this smirk thing. So this I thought was good for the merchant. It may not be appropriate for the blackie, the blacksmith. Let's see. Mouth smile right. Brow outer up right. Brow outer up right. All right, so this is the look I gave the merchant, which I think is quite cool. And what we can do is take that component, create a new emote, and call it left smirk, just to create a bit of variation that this character can smirk on either side. It's not always going to be the same side. And I'll add a couple of components there. It doesn't really matter what's in them at the moment. I'll go to the right smirk, copy, go to the left smirk, paste, and then take the second component here, copy, and paste that one. So what that's done is it's actually pasted the values in, and the blend shape. So I can now change that to the left one, and change that to the left. And now we should have a left smirk, which potentially could be combined with a right smirk at some point. And we can switch between these. I need to do the eyebrow one. I haven't finished the eyebrow one yet. And look, you've got a lot of customization here about how often. I think these are the probabilities that these will get fired. I think that they're probabilities. They might be scale factors or something. Random pull. So it's going to smile on emphasis. Let's take that off. Make these random events. All right, and let's do the eyebrows. Actually, the eyebrows, we're going to make that lip sync emphasizer. So as he's talking, his eyebrows are going to go up, and he's going to do it randomly as well when he's not talking. All right, so we're just going to rewire this. Brow inner up. Brow outer up left. Brow outer up right. So let's have a quick look at that. Okay, so there's his eyebrows going. And I think what we did is we raised his right eyebrow higher. So the natural eyebrow raise for him is going to be different. So I think we want to make this 100 and the left 120. That's his natural eyebrow thing. All right, so we're putting collection mode now. We should be able to trigger these. So he's sniffing every now and again. He's got his smile, which will come in and out. His big smile. Not sure if there's something happening with his lip there. Maybe. It looks okay. Generally, the camera's not going to be quite this close either. We've got a smirk, eyebrows, and a left smirk. Cool. All right, so they're basically in there. And the settings are going to use, it's under these settings here, so it's going to do a random chance of these. If we increase the chance, then it's just going to happen a lot more. There's going to be a lot more things happening. And you can make it hold those positions for longer as well. But let's give that a play and see what that looks like in the scene with that audio. And this guy, I need to get rid of the merchant because he's doing his line. And he's on autoplay as well. So let's do this. Null reference. Okay, so we've got a reference somewhere that is using the...
You require my assistance? You require my assistance? You require
It's the
my
eyes.
assistance?
Okay, so this guy's eyes reference. Where are we? Eyes. Something in the... Oh, there we go. Cool. I0. That's correct. Set. We need the eye gizmo, and we don't have an eye gizmo anymore. That's why. Create a gizmo. Okay, I think that's it. Configuration required. And we're in an eye gizmo for that one. This should be eye blink right. Eye blink right. So I must have forgotten to set up the to set the skin mesh renderer. It is obviously still referring to the other dude. So these yellow panels basically tell me that there's config required, which is pretty handy to be able to see that quickly. Eye blink right. Okay. Yep. And this one. I blink left. Blink left. Blink left. Blink left. Okay. Okay. Let's give that a go. Let's save the scene. Play and going close.
You require my assistance? You require my assistance?
There you go.
You require my assistance? You require my assistance?
Shut up.
You require my assistance? You require my assistance?
So that's now worked pretty well. You can see in between the speaking, there's the cheeks are moving up, the eyebrows are certainly moving a lot. There's a bit of random. Every now and again, he's lifting a different eyebrow. The blink cycles are working. That's pretty good, considering what's that? A couple of hours work to get a Blacksmith now that will play any audio and do the lip sync for an asset that wasn't compatible with this pipeline. So I'm pretty happy with that. I think what I want to do is apply that prefab. I want to override that, apply all. And I want to go and put him in the scene. But what I'm going to do is to actually create a new prefab in the characters folder with all the other ones there. I like to sort of create them here. I'll create an original prefab and I'll prefix it with NPC. All right, let's go to the Exeter scene and plonk him in there. So I'd like to be able to use this character multiple times. But what that means is that I can do something with that water, River X. What that means is that I'm going to have to make variants on him because otherwise he's going to look the same all the time. God, it's a bit flashy. What's going on with the flashiness? Is it this? Yes. It's the dynamic clipping. So that should be 0 if it's anything. Actually, dynamic is fine. All right, so Blacksmiths. Let's put him down near the Blacksmiths. One of them is here. So I'm going to place him in the scene to create an instance. And I'm then going to tailor each, because I'll probably give these guys names. And I'll tailor them. I'll probably rescale them. I'll give them different voices, different eye colors, different hair colors, different clothing. I think the glove can be removed. I'm not sure if he's got another hand that I can put in there in place of that. Might be able to mimic the hand to the other side, but anyway, let's plonk him in a few times. And on the other ones, I want to take off his audio so he doesn't play automatically. Let's have him working over here. And we're going to get rid of your audio. Actually, I'm going to just change it so it doesn't play on start, play on awake. Nope. This guy, I'll leave as play, so he'll go into a loop and just continue playing. I'll put him up there. I want to use another one. I think there's one in here. I might take his hair off or something, so make it look very different. Hopefully sufficiently different that you don't even know it's the same model. That could be a bit tricky, but we'll see what we can do. Put him in there. All right, and you can have your hair missing. And you obviously don't need the thing on the back of your head because you haven't got any hair to tie it back. And I could switch out, you know, the beard and everything. So I'll do that probably offline when I'm not on the stream, just because it takes a lot of time to fiddle with that sort of stuff. Now this thing could come off, so just change the look of him. I'm pretty sure he's got a hand in there somewhere for his other hand. Maybe I'm wrong. Be a shame if he's not got a hand on the other side. That would be a little bit short-sighted. All right, and we can give him different animations as well. So let's take off his play on awake audio and put him in here. At the moment, he looks like, you know, the Stormtrooper clones, because we've got him in there several times. But we will be fixing that. We will be making him different. Let's have him heating his hands up in front of the fire. And yeah, we need to change him up. Get rid of the audio. Once I wire up Blink RPG Builder to allow interaction between the player and the NPCs, I'll be able to call dialogue lines in the dialogue selection, which will then play different audio clips as you interact. Whereas at the moment, it's just doing play on awake, which is annoying. Let's get rid of the errors there. Let's change him up. I'm going to make this guy a bit more squinty. So I'm setting these values, and hopefully it will blend shape from these two others. So I can sort of, what I want to do is actually make him a little bit goofy looking. Like he's got a... he's a bit derpy. And I will... what else am I going to do? I think I'm going to change his hair color. And his beard. So we want this guy. Eyes, yeah, we'll probably change the eyes too. Let's do blue eyes, and the beard. And lighten that up. In fact, we could even make the beard, you know, longer and bushier, so it kind of starts to look a bit different. And of course we can change the head without scar and put the head in there, so he's got the scar on his face, so he looks older and wiser. And probably the same for the body here, body material. Oh, he's got the normal body. Yeah, okay, so that's fine. This dude, or did I apply? That looks like it's applied to them all. Actually, that's not right. It's because I've created them off the same prefab, so it's applied them to the prefab. Didn't want to do that, but it's okay. I can sort that out later. He's in the scene. I think that should work okay. That's certainly looking, with this lighting, the materials are looking good. He looks like he fits in the scene. Oh yeah, it's pretty good. I don't know if I've got any blacksmithing animations actually. I think I may have. Let's take his animator, blacksmith avatar. We don't have a controller, so we're going to need a controller for him, because I think he's just going to stand there. This won't work because we're not in RPG Builder Start. So I've got two modes of play in this scene. One is to launch it from the main menu through Blink RPG Builder with the character that I've selected. If I just play it in this scene, there isn't a player character. And I
require my assistance?
So what I'm going to do is use... let's drop the Gaia player in there. That's better. Okay. I might turn off these blacksmiths so they're not talking automatically.
You require my assistance? You require my assistance? You require my assistance?
Oh, it's snowing.
You require my assistance? You require my assistance?
There we go. Turn him off. Okay, so this is the Gaia player character. It's a little bit laggy now, which is not totally surprising. So we're getting the snow effect from global snow. That's the animated particles, but the sky and all the other effects are coming from Enviro. And I would probably apply something to the ground as well in this event. Anyway, let's go and see the dude and see what he's doing, if he's doing anything. He's standing in his T-pose because he's not actually got an animation controller, but he is doing the SALSA is doing the emotes and the blinks. So that's good. That's all working pretty well. So that's as you'd expect at this point. We haven't given him any animation cycle to do anything, so he's not going to do any blacksmithing at the moment. And we'll go and see this dude because I think this is the dude that I had the vocals still on. And if we were to interact with him, SALSA play.
Why should I fear the darkness? It has no power.
That's not the dude. I want this dude. I'm picking the wrong blacksmith now. Let's go to... Of course, we're going into a night cycle. That's not very helpful. This one is this one. Okay, so let's play him.
You require my assistance? You require...
Yeah.
You require my assistance? You require my...
So it's getting there. I think when his mouth's open and you see his teeth, it looks a bit weird, a bit of smirk there. So you get a bit of reflection on the teeth, which looks odd.
You require my assistance?
But
you require my...
That's good. I'm pretty happy with that. The other guy should be mostly lit by the flames now. Let's move him a bit closer, I think. Which one's that one? It's this guy up here. Okay. So you can see if you move them closer to the flames, you actually get you can see the cloth animation moving on the leather, which is cool, and you can change the leather stiffness so it doesn't flap around like it's, you know, silk. But you can see the lighting works really well. I'm not sure we really want to stand there, but anyway, that's pretty cool. Obviously, we need to get him out of the T-pose by giving him an animation controller and some meaningful animation. It looks pretty good. He looks sweaty from what he's been doing. The shaders, the two-sided, I was right about that two-sided shader. I think if I'd used the single-sided shader on the glove, we'd see a transparent part, which, you know, or a see-through part, which would look weird. This looks like this is optional. So that's another way to sort of change them up. I'm a bit disappointed there's no hand. I'm wondering if that original model did have a left hand. I'll have to check that. And the other guy is in here. Okay, so that's something to be aware of also, is how the character looks in the environment. He looks lit. His face and everything look lit, and the environment isn't lit that way. So, yeah, that might require a little bit of tweaking. Failing that, I could put the light on in here and actually make it lit in here all the time, and then it probably would resolve that issue. Anywho, yeah, that's looking pretty cool. And then over here we've got our merchant dude who's got his own animation cycle with he's basically sitting on a stool. Not doing a whole lot, but he is wired up with SALSA as well. Just need to give him some dialogue. And then I've got the same guy in here, and I'm going to be tweaking him to make him look a bit different. I've made this guy a little bit cross-eyed just to make him interesting, made him smile a bit more. And I'm working on making his hair flop so that the comb over is going to flop out of the way as he's talking, so just to make it a bit humorous. So yeah, it's coming along quite nicely. I'm pretty pleased with that. The rest of this gameplay at the moment is based on RPG Builder, so if I come out of that and I actually run the game from the main menu, you'll see the standard RPG Builder launch, which I'm going to be tailoring. So this background scene is the RPG Builder low poly one. So obviously, this is not a low poly game. So I'm going to be changing the starting scene and probably changing the way that the character is selected. But for the moment, this is fine for selecting new characters. So you've got this menu option at the top here. Obviously, it's selecting a different prefab character that is then used as the player character. So there's the male and female assassins that I was working on a few weeks ago. We've got the female huntress. There isn't a male version, so I've got to get rid of this male iteration of it. And I've done these as races. So each of these classes are actually a race with a male and female. There are races in here, so you can do orcs and elves and things, but anyway, this is the Knight Errant. Now I don't think I've mentioned Knight Errant too much, so this is actually not a Quang Fan asset. This is one called Knight Errant. Let me just see if I can find it quickly. Here it is, by Shao Kan. I don't think they're related to Quang Fan. But yeah, so that's the Knight Errant character. You can see why it's a bargain, $24 too for this character. He's got all the blend shapes for the mouth, so and the jawbones and all that sort of stuff. So he can actually have speaking parts. I just need to wire him up to SALSA. But the equipment sets are quite varied, and I like that for the fact that it's got the same sort of flexibility that the female knight has from Quang Fan. I don't think he's got hair at all, so he's either wearing a helmet or he's not got any hair. But the quality of the meshes are very good, and I was really pleased with that one. So he's found his way to a player character, and of course then we've got the Quang Fan female knight. That's the one I've done most work on with the horse riding and so forth. We've then got the Mage Archer, which is currently an elf. I'm going to be taking his ears off and actually replacing the mesh for his head with a human one. This is it's a Mage Archer from Quang Fan, but I'm not using the Archer capabilities yet because I've got a hunter. But potentially I could create a male hunter out of this, maybe. And there's the female mage, and then I've got the necromancer, half demon, half necromancer, and there's a version where she's got the wraps over her eyes. There's a version where she hasn't, just for a bit of variation, and a bit of text that goes with it. So RPG Builder lets you create this sort of selection text. And then we've got the male Crusader, which I'm now calling a Templar, male Templar and female Templar. And then we've got the warriors, male and female warriors. So yeah, it's working quite well. If I choose any of these other characters at the moment, they're going to go into the RPG Builder test scene which obviously has all of the RPG Builder low poly assets in it, but at least you can kind of see some dialogue and some item pickups and things like that. I'm not going to be using all this as it is, but I have taken the Obsidian UI and applied that so that I've now got these custom panels basically that I'm going to be starting to customize them to work in Zarktor's room. Not all of them are going to work. It's obviously got the mini map. This is sort of a World of Warcraft like experience when you play this template level. It feels like World of Warcraft, and that's not necessarily how Zarktor's Realm is going to work, but it gives me some area that has been crafted to work with RPG Builder perfectly. So a good test here is when you speak to this wolf thing and you equip it, basically what it's doing is it's swapping out. Let me just see if I can do this. If you swap out it swaps out the character and you basically become the wolf. And one of the things I found when I'm doing the RPG Builder is if you don't attach the right meshes, the head stays there and right in the middle of the wolf, because what you've done is you've hidden the body, but the head or the hair stays because it's part of the armature rather than the mesh. So there's a few gotchas with things like that you've got to look for. But yeah, it's working okay. This is the old RPG Builder camera and the controller for the RPG characters. So the run cycle isn't quite right. But it's it works. You can kind of do that. You see the purple there, or the pink is actually, that's going to be a built-in shader for a particle shader that I need to switch out if I'm going to be using that sort of magic cast. And of course the animations don't line up with what I'm doing in terms of firing those weapons and things. But that's my starting point for sort of building out the character. At least we can now spawn the 12 characters into an environment, and I could probably wire these up to all go into the Exeter scene now and start interacting with the blacksmiths and the merchants, at least, to get the dialogue stuff working. So this dialogue panel that you get here is RPG Builder's dialogue. So it's not playing any audio, it's not doing any lip sync, but you do have this selection, and there is a node-based selection behind this. So what I'm going to be doing is replacing this with dialogue system from Pixel Crushers, and that will effectively replace this. The UI will be different anyway, but the selection of dialogue will be a bit different. Certainly the camera will be closer, and you'll be seeing the interaction between the characters for that lip sync stuff. So yeah, that's basically where I'm up to. I think that's probably all I want to do tonight. It's been a pretty busy week, so I don't want to do a really long session today. I'll probably do a longer session tomorrow night. That's about all I've got for you guys. There will be more tomorrow, as I want to keep bringing in the rest of these assets from my other project. Where I was accumulating them and getting more to work with the universal render pipeline. So now that they're fixed up with the pipeline, I can bring them in here more easily. And that's going to include the pets and the horse riding, all the nature assets. I've got a lot of trees and props and things to go into the environment. I think the next thing might also be to get the Melba's horse riding back into the project. I took it out, but I'm going to put it back in again and get these player characters wired up to ride horses, and then probably get onto the dialogue so that I can actually start interacting with with these NPCs. And obviously that then ties in with the SALSA, and all I need to then do is plug some dialogue in and get them doing stuff. So that's all I want to do. It's only 2.5 hours tonight, but hope you've enjoyed the stream. The video will be back up on YouTube probably sometime tomorrow for reference, and I'll be back tomorrow night 9 p.m. Australian Eastern Standard Time, and same on Sunday. And I look forward to seeing you then. If you enjoy, please give us a follow and a like on YouTube or on Twitch, and check out Zarktor's Realm on Steam. Anyway, thanks, guys. Really appreciate you joining my stream. See you again. Bye.